Hey guys, so what we're going to work today for discrete math is going to be something called critical path analysis, right? Which right now shouldn't mean anything to you whatsoever, but I am going to show you that this, especially as people work for businesses and big companies, this is one of those things that they use all the time, analyzing critical paths, right? Now what a critical path is it's a system that's used to basically figure out what steps need to be done in order to complete a goal, right? And we'll show you what some of those goals can be. It can be things that are complicated for big companies and businesses. For us to explain it, it's something that can be so simple that your goal is still to get to the end, to complete it, right? And what a critical path always shows you is where you're starting, all the important steps that you need to get there, and then where you finish, right? And so whenever we create a critical path, a critical path, again, it's an actual graph, it's a design that shows us literally what it is that we need to do at each step to get to our end goal. So when we create a critical path, there's always two important things that we need, right? First thing that we need are all the necessary steps to complete our goal, right? To complete our goal. And again, there's one difference to think that, oh, I want to include certain things, but there's a difference between being able to do things that are extra and things that are absolutely necessary. So like, for example, if you're going to end up making scrambled eggs, right? You can put salt, that's a choice. You can put pepper, that's a choice. You don't need salt and pepper to make scrambled eggs. But what you do need, the necessary things are, you need your eggs, you need to scramble your eggs, and you need to cook your eggs. Those are things that are all necessary. That's what we cover in a critical path. All the things that are necessary, not the additional things that we like. You know what I mean? So when creating a critical path, you need all the necessary steps to complete that goal. You also need to represent time. How long each step is going to end up taking, right? So always the two things. Two things we need are all the necessary steps and time. How long is it going to take each step to complete? And so the best way for actually me to explain a critical path, how to analyze critical paths, is by creating a critical path, right? And whenever you create a critical path, you always need to have a goal in mind, right? And the goal that I want to do the goal where we want to throw a party, right? We are going to throw a party. And that's our task. And again, all goals can be different. It could be something as making food. It can be a company saying that we need to acquire this company. We need to pay off these debts and all that. All of these things, we want to expand, we want to get bigger. All of these are goals, but what a critical path shows us is what's the goal you want and how do you get there? What are all the necessary steps to get there? So let's say that ours is, we want to throw a party, right? We're going to throw a party. We want to create right now, let's create a critical path, right? Let's create a critical path to show that, right? So the very first thing, you got to start thinking, if you want to throw a party, what's the very first thing you need to do or know if you're going to throw a party, right? So I'm going to put a point here just to represent our starting point, right? So we want to throw a party. Our first goal for throwing a party, actually, let me draw that in a little bit, just to make it actually pop more, right? We want to throw a party. So the very first thing, if you want to throw a party, is think, what would you do? And I can know that the first thing that I would do if I'm going to throw a party, the thing that I need to do to first get started is pick a date and time, right? I'm going to end up picking a date and time. And then think, that's our first necessary step. What time would I need to actually complete that? And if I were to pick a date and time, the time that I think I would need to actually figure out a date and time would end up being something like 15 minutes, right? I would end up needing 15 minutes to figure that out. So we have that, right? There's our first starting point. And again, it's not a segment. In this case, we're using array because that's showing us What these are telling us now are the directions that we have to follow in order to get to our goal, right? So we pick a date and time. Now, once we pick a date and time, our next thinking is, who do you want to invite, right? Who do you want to invite? Make a list of who to invite. And now, same question there. How long do I think that that would take me, right? And if I were to make a list of who I want to invite, that would probably end up taking me about another 10 minutes, let's say, right? So we made a list of who we want to invite, right? So we picked a date, we made a list of who to invite. Now that we have that list, I can actually invite the guests, right? I can actually invite guests. Invite guests. And for me to invite guests, how long do I think it would take? Probably take me like 2-3 minutes, right? 3 minutes. Because again, for me, it would just end up being sending out a text message, right? So, I made a list of who to invite. I invited guests. Next, what's the next thing that I'm gonna do, right? And the good thing about a critical path, it gets to a point, you can start moving these around. I'm gonna end up moving this here, just to actually be able to use that side. We said that to make a list was about 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes. So now, we picked a date and time, we made a list, we invited the guests. Next, the next thing that I'm gonna do, right, is I need to figure out who's coming, right? I need to actually figure out when they tell me who's actually coming. Figure out who is actually coming, right? Who is actually coming. And again, that should take me maybe 15 minutes, right there. And now, once we figure out who's coming, now we can actually figure out the food that we want to buy, right? Food and drinks. Everything that you need for a party, right? So, we know exactly who's coming. We've told them when to come and all that. Now we can actually figure out food and drinks, right? Determine food and drinks. Food and drinks. Right? And for me to figure out the food and drinks, that would probably end up taking me another, let's say, 20 minutes to figure that out. Right? After that, we now can figure out, let me go buy the food, right? Actually, the next thing, and it's starting to get a little bit tight, I apologize, that's just the limitations of my board. So, we figured out what food and what drinks we want to buy. Now, we're actually gonna buy the food, right? Buy food. Buy food and drinks. This is gonna start getting entertaining in a second. Buy food and drinks. And the time that would take me to buy food and drinks would probably be around, let's say 3 hours, just to play on the safe side, right? So again, we picked the date, we made a list, we invited those guests, figured out who's actually coming, figured out the food and drinks, went to go buy food and drinks, and now, again, this is the good thing about the arrows, guys. Even though it doesn't look traditional, it tells us what directions we have to go to get to our outcome, right? There's no second guessing. We know where we're going and what path we have to go, right? So now we bought our food and drinks. Next thing we're gonna do, we can actually put out food and drinks, right? Put out food, put out food, put out the drinks, and seating, right? And seats. Food, drink, and seats. And how long that would take me to put out the food, drink, and seats? That would probably be another 2 hours, right? Me, I would be cooking, so since I'd be cooking, that would take me a little bit longer. If you're just putting out like chips and things like that, it would take you a lot less, right? I'm gonna get rid of this up here now, just because I need a little bit more space. And now for me, and again, this is where some people would figure out that their critical goal, what they need to throw a party, they need other things like music and things like that. I don't. For me to actually throw a party, it's just getting friends together with food and drinks and all that, getting us all together. After I put out all the food, all the drinks, all the seats, now it's literally just welcoming the guests, right? It's just welcoming my guests. And to welcome guests, it's literally every time they come, go and open the door, and that's it. That to me would be me throwing a party, right? Welcoming guests. And that would take me probably, let's say 10 minutes total for the whole time. But that for me is it, you know what I mean? It's everything that's here, it looks complicated, but it's a longer process because I picked the process to get you guys to see, right? When it comes to a critical path, you need to know where you're starting. You need to know what your outcome is. My outcome was to welcome the guests to our party, right? Have a party for them. And so from there, we picked a date. We made a list of who to invite. We invited our guests. We figured out who was coming. We determined the food and drinks based on who was coming. So this does have to follow a certain order because you can't make a list of, you can't invite guests unless you've picked a date and known who you were inviting, right? You can't figure out who's coming unless you actually invite people. You can't figure out how much food and drinks you need until you've actually figured out who's coming, you know what I mean? So all of this does go in order, guys, and it does follow this path on how to be able to throw a party. This, again, is what a critical path is. It's a critical path that tells us where we're starting, where do we want to get to, and the order of each step that's necessary to get to the next one to complete our goal. Again, if you have any questions, guys, feel free to ask.